correct word basically says someone who's gone towards, well, one could say joy, towards happiness. One could say that, if that sounds good. So now, what the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, well, having explained, having tried to explain what is bodhicitta by those one or two examples, the bodhicitta that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas generate, and that we are trying to aspire, that we are trying to apply. In short, it's kindness, it's care. The common word that we use is love. Although when we use that word, we often get a very different impression of it, and therefore it may not be the right word. But care, kindness, I think those are harmless words. So basically, one of the questions that, last questions that I read yesterday, which says, what is the relationship between compassion and emptiness? Probably this is very good because it's very much aligned with the subject. One factor is compassion, although compassion may not be the most appropriate term to describe karuna, maitri. There are a few other words in Sanskrit, basically in Tibetan known as nyingje or tsewa. So one is that, and the other, as it says here, emptiness, or in other words, wisdom. The bodhicitta can be described as inseparable from these two qualities. Yeah. It's inseparable. And why is it inseparable? I think I may have answered yesterday. So, or how it is inseparable. And it's due to this compassion or understanding of kindness, understanding of selflessness or emptiness or wisdom, that causes this how do I say this? This motherhood or fatherhood or parenthood, this feeling to want to benefit others, want to care for others. That particularly for a mother, even if it's not her own baby, whenever she sees another baby, already there is some sense of wanting to care. Maybe it's because the baby is cute. But maybe that's more for fathers. Maybe one extra thing for mothers is that it doesn't really need. For her, the baby doesn't need to be really cute. That baby, even if the baby cries, she feels something already. So it's these two qualities that causes that, So it's basically synonymous, actually. From a Buddhist point of view, whenever one uses the word compassion, it's not separate from emptiness. That's the thing. How do I describe emptiness? Well, I would say it's one way to describe it is to use the same word that I just used, illogical. Emptiness can be described as illogical. No reason, reasonless, pointless, baseless, meaning that there isn't a real sort of reason why we need to. It's a sort of illogical compassion. probably that's one way to describe the inseparable quality of compassion and wisdom. So, of course, at the beginning, there isn't a total understanding of emptiness, although one does express without knowing, just like the mothers. Without knowing, they express that it's occurring. But when you enter into this path, when you generate bodhicitta, then what you're saying is, particularly when you say, I aspire, I apply, it means that now I want to learn what is occurring every day in me. I want to name it. I want to know the reasons. I want to know the varieties of it, the different categories of it. That's what's saying. And so those means are then named by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or in other words, by the experts who have actually seen the truth. That's why when we say the Four Noble Truths, noble and truths, yes, because that the name itself suggests that it's not something, it's not just a theory, that there's a theory about suffering, that there's a theory about its causes, there's a theory about the cessation and so on. No, it's actual complete understanding. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, for years, for eons, they have examined over and over again to a point where there is no trace of any unknown areas about what is dukkha and what is klesha or karma. So therefore, they are the real experts in this case, and therefore their words are noble and their words are true. So therefore, noble truths, yes. So according to their noble truth, then the 6 paramitas that is described here are the name paramitas, one could say. They themselves are actually, in short, good names. Because as I said earlier, now we want to learn, we want to name them, we want to label them, yes, this thing that is occurring in me. So the Buddhas had, for our sake, have named the means, named the emotions, named the wisdoms, the qualities, the opposite of the qualities, everything, to a point where we won't waste time, basically. So therefore, when we enter into this path, when we aspire, when we apply, what we promise to ourselves, what we commit, the vow that we take is saying that I want to learn everything that is occurring in me. To a point, why? Because to a point where I experience all of this every day. Even when I sleep, even in my dreams, I experience all of this. And to a point where it's making me crazy. To a point where I'm starting to sort of really question my sanity and say that from one moment I feel a strong emotion, on the other hand I feel a strong sense of care, strong sense of morality, strong sense of virtue and so on. What is right, what is not right. So therefore there's this constant conflict in me, so therefore now I really want to know that. So this is the reason why we take this journey, one could say. So therefore, in short, bodhicitta can be described as, or generating bodhicitta can be described as a strong will, a strong motivation. That's the best way to describe it. A strong motivation of wishing to know, of aspiring to know the truth about my inner experiences. That is depicted as compassion, when we feel this illogical care for others. And the illogical state is then described as emptiness. The best, shunyata, the right word, or in Tibetan, tongbanyi, So it's the best way to describe. And that's what we are trying to learn. It's not that we are trying to, it's not that we are trying to truly adopt something entirely different. If we are really truly adopting something entirely different, in the first place, we should not feel all this conflict in us. We shouldn't. To a point where we should be totally sane, completely sane, completely fine. No emotions, no fear, no nothing. And then out of sanity, now I want to adopt something. That should be the case. But it's not. The fact is there is something in here. Something is stirring in here. Has been stirring for a long time. And so therefore, I just relatively adopt a means to understand what is occurring in me. That's probably one way to present it. So, hopefully those words may bring a little inspiration, hopefully. If not, we shall try again. We shall crack our heads again. Meaning not the voice that you hear right now, but mainly what this text is saying. Is it true or not? Is it actually the case or not? You must examine that. You must meditate on that. Yes. And if you do that, and if you find that there is depth in this, that there is a point in here, then you should practice it. You should, at the moment, depend on it. You should fully embrace it, utilize it, make it your own. And how to do so, as I said earlier, we should walk with this, we should talk with this, we should think with this. So basically, practice it every day, yes, so that you don't separate your real life and practice sessions. That you try to sort of really blend it together at the moment. Of course, to have an official session for practice is always advisable for now, so that it will help us get into a rhythm, yes. But if you have a rhythm, then of course there's no need to have a separate time for practice. But beside the formal practice, these points should be constantly, well, not exactly questioned. Of course, I've taken care of that part, I thought, yesterday or the day before, when there was a very good question about questioning. That at the beginning we should question, not later, yes. But once we have now seen the truth, once we have understood the points, then we should basically we should mingle. Yeah, we should mingle with it and really associate. So whenever you feel that you have a sort of idle time or during any intervals, then try to think a little bit about it. You don't have to go through the whole psychology and its science and lay down a full desk of things, but just focus on something very simple. Yeah. Like what is care? What is kindness? What is karuna? And basically, maybe the right question should be: is it first of all a part of me? Is it me? Most importantly, is that me? That's the most important question, I think. So, if you do that, then we can rejoice, as it says here. We can rejoice that from that moment onwards, from that moment we have generated that quality, then actually we have every means, or unless that that commitment is given up or badly damaged, we can be called, we can be named, we can be labeled as Bodhisattvas. But of course, which Bodhisattva, to be precise, then we can be called as those who Bodhisattvas with pure motivation, or who's learning how to motivate, that kind of Bodhisattvas. Of course, if some of you have reached the further ones, then we can have different names. So basically, then, as it says here, then from here onwards, I am one of the Buddha's child or children. And that from this day onwards, then my life is with meaning, and for that, then I invite all sentient beings. I welcome all sentient beings. I call upon all sentient beings to rejoice for me, because I have done something impossible for all of our sake. Well, in this case, according to Shantideva's way, for your sake, meaning for sentient beings' sake. Because the whole lojong is, or the whole mind training is based on basically seeing or stating the others as everything. That almost taking the idea of me, my, mine, whatever, this your, you, that equation is almost not erased, but how do I say? It's considered unnecessary to a point. Yeah. Whereas in most of samsaric states, or in general in samsaric states, it's just the opposite. The rest are almost unnecessary, and to a point where oneself is the absolute. So therefore, it's something impossible. It's extraordinary. It's impossible. So therefore, I should rejoice. They should rejoice. Why? Because today I did something impossible. Something that no one ever thought of. Because wherever we go within samsara, unless they have understood the truth, from their perspective, this is impossible to think like that. It's not advisable. It's not logical, And of course, there are many names for that. So then now, if we go through, thus, whatever actions I do from now on must be in accord with the family. Never shall I disgrace or pollute this noble and unsullied race. Just like a blind man discovering a jewel in a heap of rubbish, likewise, by some coincidence, an awakening mind has been born within me. It is the supreme ambrosia that overcomes the sovereignty of death. It is the inexhaustible treasure that eliminates all poverty in the world. It is the supreme medicine that quells the world's disease. It is the tree that shelters all beings, wandering and tired on the path of conditioned existence. Yeah. So now these are the examples. Examples or metaphors, or almost literal, actually. That such attitude, such way of being, such way of thinking, such way of behaving is as precious as these examples, as beneficial as these examples. Nowhere in the world there is such a medicine, such a jewel, such a plant, and so on. So one thing that sort of amuses me is whenever we words use like family here, I've been born in the family of Buddhas, and now onwards Buddha's children and so on. Of course, it's correct. But the idea of using the terms like family and children is mainly to. I think it's important to maybe to think about this point. That I've been born into the Buddha's family, and now from here on I'm Buddha's children and so on. Although it's correct, but such words we need to take it with wisdom, with care. Otherwise, then from time to time there is a risk that we might feel a sense of being superior. It sort of it's almost like saying turning the medicine into some, not really into poison, but not going through the proper therapy, therefore gaining a little bit of side effect. So one of the side effects can be that it could generate a sense of pride that I'm better than the rest. So that should never be the place. That should never be the case. And the reason why the words like family, children that I use here in Tibetan, like Thaye means children or prince. Gyalwa means basically like the victor or the king and so on. Of course, in very simply, it's a poetic gesture. It's a poetic metaphor. So it's beautiful. It sounds majestic. So it's a way to bring a healthy pride, let's say. But if we're not careful, this could turn into unhealthy prides. And but the origin of this idea is coming from the word rik in Tibetan, or kind in English, I think. One of the English words, kind, or type. Basically means the lineage. It means lineage, yeah. Bloodline, one could say. Bloodline, So it is coming from that idea. And so therefore it could, as I said, have unhealthy side effects that could bring up emotions. First, just as a pride, and out of that pride, then of course our sense is blurred, our vision is compromised, and therefore we could start to suddenly bring up emotional topics. Because suddenly, does that mean that we are a particular race? There you go. Already something occurred, yes, in us. So therefore, it's something that we need to take it with care. Yes. In short, one way to suffice this point. Somebody's getting a call. No, on this. Maybe that was a blessing in disguise. So, just to sort of round up, the to have a healthy understanding of the rik or the kind is basically to study it actually. Yeah, study it. There are countless of sutras and shastras that describes what is the kind, what does it mean. So I suggest for you to do that. But for now, in short, the best way I can say is that it's the bloodline, it's the kind, it's the type, it's the lineage of compassion. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. If you go a little bit more, the lineage of compassion that is illogical. That's it. Yes. And if you think in that way, then hopefully it will again sort of disperse all of the emotions, and the sense of pride or the side effects and so on. And then again, once again, have a clearer picture. So, Buddhas are known as victors, sugatas, whatnot, because they have completed, they have accomplished, and they have perfected, they have completely embraced compassion and wisdom. And so therefore they have such names, such majestic, regal names. And we, once we generate into this, then suddenly we automatically become someone who carries that lineage. And so from that point of view, then we are, let's say, Buddha's children in this case, or someone who carries his bloodline in a way, his lineage. So probably that's one way to look at it. But furthermore, I would very much suggest you to look at the sutras yourselves to have a better understanding. And once again, a reason to come back here to go through the academic courses, traditional courses, and so on. Yes. So then, maybe we pause here, and then I will try to maybe use maybe 5-10 minutes to answer some of the questions. I know it's piling up. Where is it? Which is the button? Okay, great. I'm sorry that I cannot go through all the questions, but I'm hoping that with whatever explanations that I was giving would already somehow answer most of the questions. Okay, there are several questions. One of them states, is it possible to reach enlightenment in present life? And what are the requirements and necessary actions for it? And another, please advise how I or we can check the teacher or our teacher, especially in the case where they are rare to find. Another one, if our close relative dies and we make a poa for him or her, will he or she, obligatory I suppose, be reborn or as will be in the Pure Land? If yes, when he or she will be reborn? Or how many years after? Okay, so the point is that even for the sake of preserving goodness, quality such as the practice of compassion, practice of loving kindness, practice of bodhicitta, in order to preserve it, one must not engage in destructive actions. I think that was the point, and that's very valid, and that's what makes the Buddha's path so engageable it basically commands respect, commands our humility, our trust, because well, there are many ways of sort of describing this, but one way I can think of is that one way to describe is what is the lineage? What is the Buddhist lineage? What is Buddhism? Well, let's say. Of course, there are many ways to describe it, but in short, one story that's not story, but again, an event that occurred actually during Buddha's time might help to actually answer this question, which is that, which I have mentioned it some time ago during one of the sojongs, I think, that there were in some distant land in India, in ancient India times, there were, well, of course, by the time when Buddha was already turning the wheel of Dharma or teaching Dharma, already many of his disciples had already ventured into various parts of India, and therefore there were already many assemblies of ordained people. So therefore, one time there was a case where two of those monks had not seen actually Buddha in their lifetime. Of course, although they had been practicing in the ways of the Buddha, they have ordained in the ways of the Buddha. So their great will was to really, in person, to really see the Buddha, and so they ventured on a very difficult and a long journey. So far, so good. Almost towards the end, there was not much. There weren't many obstacles. And towards the end, just I think maybe a few days ahead, I suppose, one of them basically caught malaria, I think, basically. And so therefore, They were called, well, basically the doctors came, and when they investigated, then they discovered that it was that, so therefore they came with the remedies, and the remedy called for basically the consumption of spirit, alcohol. And because only with alcohol then it'll open the chakras, you know. And as a result, the medicine can spread through faster and therefore cure it. So as a result, one of the monks thought, well, basically one of the two thought that, well, Buddha's teaching will remain. Well, basically, in short, what he thought was that the most rarest thing to see is the Buddha, is the presence of Buddha. That it's certain that only after almost a eon, then, or after many eons, you might get a slim chance of actually seeing a Buddha. So therefore, it's a chance, you know, it's a golden chance that you should not miss. So therefore, he consumed it. Of course, he was cured, and he survived to see the Buddha. And the other didn't. The other didn't consume alcohol, and therefore the medicine could not bring its effect, and so he passed away. So later, the one who survived met with the Buddha and explained of his friend's case and the reason why he came and so on. And so I think one of the disciples must have asked the Buddha, isn't it such courage? Isn't there such courage? Isn't there such isn't that an impressive thing, you know, for them to have come this way, this far, and all the way to see you and so on? But Buddha said that the most impressive thing is actually the one who passed away, because although he came with all that aim to, you know, to somehow neglect all of the obstacles, but when it really mattered, he actually preserved his commitments, his practice, and he sacrificed seeing a Buddha, which is very rare, of course. So he said that that's the most impressive part. And why? Because he said that the more than seeing the Buddha, the actual lineage, the actual practice, is the way you carry yourself, is what you practice. That's the real lineage. So basically, in our modern context, it's not the temple, it's not the building, it's not the text, it's nothing material. It's immaterial. It's the immaterial thing. It's in Tibetan known as lapa. Lapa la kansi yo. Lapa. Lapa tsirim je lapa, lapa tingzi je lapa. Discipline. Yeah, I guess one way to describe is discipline. So he said that it's that discipline. Basically, it refers to the thing that we feel a little bit uncomfortable with sometimes. Maybe not as bad as dukkha and hell, but to some extent a little bit uncomfortable, the word vow, or the idea of vow. So basically, it's the discipline, it's the vinaya, it's the practice of shila, the phenomena that cools one's emotions for now, and also one that absolutely cools one's emotion for good, which is called shila, a way to able our body and mind. Yes. So if you think in that way, then we might have a different picture of vows and shila and so on. So basically he said that that monk who passed away is the most impressive one and commands true respect. Why? Because he actually protected the lineage. So probably that might answer this question. that for the sake of the lineage, one should not commit any destruction or go to war. Because the practice is, the lineage, the love and compassion is in you. It's not there. It's not here on the table. It's not there in somewhere on the bed. It's not on one's head or anything. It's the way you carry yourself. So therefore, that can never be destroyed by anyone. No one. So if you really have to be stubborn and say there must be someone, then it's you, yourself, and no other. So therefore, there is basically no reason to do anything destructive in the name of the practice, in the name of practice of loving kindness. Well then, I suppose today that's it. Then tomorrow we just have a few more verses to go, and that's about it. And together with it, I thought maybe some of you had asked the lung of Ngunro, so we can combine it with that, and then also we can combine it. Of course, the most important thing, this chapter is about taking the Bodhisattva vow. So it's the perfect occasion to generate bodhicitta. That was also one of the wishes here. So I think we will all do that. Then we will take 5 minutes break. And today I also have to take 5 minutes break.